Disabilities Issues and Updates on BCTV is supported by the Berks County Center for Independent Living, Abilities in Motion.
Disabilities Issues and Updates. I am Teresa Faulkner, your host. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Before we get started with our show, I'd like to make some announcements. Abilities in Motion 2021 Art Expedition. The title is Disability, Diversity, and Inclusion. This art show will take place at the Goggle Works from July the 26th through July the 31st of 2020. Persons who would like to submit art should contact us at Abilities in Motion. The number is 610-376-0010, and you should ask to speak to Jennifer Hayes if you would like to be a part of our art show. Please note that you must have a disability and you must be a resident of Pennsylvania. More information to come. So if you're interested, please give us a call. We also want to make an announcement about our STARS program, which is STARS Transitioning to Achieve Realistic Success. STARS is held on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And if you are a youth and interested in that particular event, please contact Jacqueline Noggle at Abilities in Motion. More information concerning that will come. We just want to test our viewers today because our interpreter is not Beth. We want to welcome Pam. Pam, thank you for being a part of our show today. And now we want to get started. Emergencies can happen anytime. I remember one day I went to vote at the polls, wasn't recently, and I went to my polling place. It was a beautiful day outside, and I was walking home, and as I was crossing the street, I was hit by a car. Like I said, emergencies can happen at any time. But thank God I had this little card in my wallet, which explained to emergency responders all my medical information, and this little card aided in my treatment. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Richard Gardner, who is going to be dealing or talking about emergency readiness, but it's going to be in the rural area. If you live outside of the city where things are a lot different, he is going to be able to address those concerns. If you have a disability or if you're just a normal person, like I said in the beginning, emergencies can happen at any time. You must be prepared. Mr. Gardner, it's a pleasure to have you on our show today. Please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm 63 years old. I'm bipolar. I'm diabetic. I have high blood pressure. I've been here about 10 years, 10 and a half years, when Heather said, come join me. So I have 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's. The ecology really helps, which is my master's. It helps me understand the local ecology and how to prepare and where to find food and water.
Wonderful. Thank you for being on our show today. Let's talk about a situation that just happened recently in your area. I understand that there was a power outage. Tell our viewers a little bit about that.
It happened like about 3 a.m. I figured it out because the lights in our house were off, that, those little nasty LEDs that just, and I had flushed a toilet by then. Fortunately, in the basement, we have about 200 gallons of water and 5 gallon jugs for making beer, and
Mhm.
1 gallon vinegar jugs. And we use that to flush a toilet. We also have a lot of devices that have solar cells on them or can hook
Mhm.
solar cells. So they're always charged. We have backup batteries that we keep charged.
Mhm.
Um, Mostly we sat it out. We were waiting to, we figured it wouldn't be that long.
Okay.
So we sat down and read until our
Okay.
devices got tired.
Let me ask you a question. Did you find out later what caused that outage?
No, there's no real resources up here to tell you what happens
Mhm.
or where or why. I called a neighbor or actually
Okay.
texted her, and she had some information, but not much.
Not much. All you knew is that you all were outpowered.
Yeah, that was it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's talk about if there would be a major emergency. Let's talk about some of the things that you feel are necessary concerning your assets. When there would be a major emergency, what are some of the assets that you would have available to you in the event something like this would happen?
The most important thing is how I think.
Okay.
I'm bipolar, that gives me a lot of creativity
Mm-hmm.
to think beyond. I'm a scientist, that gives me a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my major asset, is how I think about things and
Okay.
problem
Okay.
solve.
So as you're thinking about things and as they're happening, would it be necessary to have money if there would be a major disaster?
At the start of COVID, I pulled out $400,
Mm-hmm.
and I always keep a $100 bill in my wallet besides.
Okay. So do you think our viewers, it would be important that they would have some cash if there would be a major disaster?
Yes, I think at least $100
Mm-hmm.
stuck in your wallet someplace safe
Okay.
at a minimum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I often think too, sometimes if there would be a national disaster, you wouldn't be able to go to the bank and get money. So you should always have some cash available at your home. Don't you feel the same way, Richard?
Yes. The reason I keep $100 is it pays for a motel room and a couple meals.
Okay, wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about liabilities.
I tend towards depression,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and I have high blood pressure. It's part of
Mm-hmm.
metabolic syndrome, and I have the diabetes.
Okay.
The diabetes is a real challenge at times, diabetes 2,
Okay.
because when we put together what I call a pandemic pantry,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do the normal things like rice or pasta.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think of low carb, high nutrition foods.
Okay.
So that's always a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tendency towards depression when I'm overwhelmed.
So as you were talking about those things, two things came to mind. Do you have an extra supply of medication for your high blood pressure and your diabetes if indeed there would be a disaster and you would be able to refill those medications?
I can go probably a week beyond each month. That's something I
Mm-hmm.
need to talk to my doctor about when I see her next, is getting a 2 week spare supply.
Okay, okay. And what about your high blood pressure medicine?
That's the issue. I can deal with the sugar through diet and exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to calculate carb content. The numbers are always rolling up here. How many
Okay.
carbs and so forth. That's just instinctive now.
Okay. One of the things that I've noticed all over, it's just not me, but since the pandemic, I just remember feeling isolated. And if you're a person who deals with depression, how would you handle that if you would have to? Well, how did you handle being isolated during the pandemic? How did you handle that with your depression, Richard?
We're really isolated because there's very few contacts we have with our neighbors. So, and we're nobody's within sight of us.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly I need skin contact. And if I get that, mostly from Heather, the dog
Mm-hmm.
pretends. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so we talked about that. I use the internet. I use text messaging.
Okay.
Um, I use email.
Okay.
There's Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly I'm an introvert or I'm on the introvert side.
Okay.
And Heather's strongly on the introvert side. So we depended mostly on ourselves. We pulled
Okay.
in.
Mm-hmm.
Our biggest fear was actually meeting people who were sick.
Oh, okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
when we walk, we are always alert to other people being around.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest challenges having a dog is other dog walkers with their dogs off leash
Oh, okay.
because we
Okay.
don't want them in our faces pulling the dogs apart.
Oh, okay. I understand that. But I think one of the things that I've learned in my own personal life, there are two different types of persons. There's an introvert and an extrovert. I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I love it. My husband, on other words, he's an introvert. He and I never really understood that until years of being married and understand. They just like being by themselves. You like being by yourself, Richard?
I need some human contact,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't need an overwhelming amount. Like a lot of introverts, 3 hours a day, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then I need my time for myself.
I understand that. I totally understand that. And let me just ask you this. What about your pet? You have a dog. Does that help when you're isolated? If you have a pet or something?
He's both a liability and an asset. One of my big fears is if we get sick or have an accident, how to provide for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's the liability side. As an asset, he's really bright.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
joke he's brighter than my neighbors. It's probably true.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, when you prepare for emergencies, you said that there are certain things that you and your wife would need, but do you also prepare for your dog?
Yes, we have a year's supply of dog food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also have those emergency supplies with contact information in the large. We have 2 containers of dog food, one small and one big. In the big container, I have all the emergency supplies he needs and contact information if something happens.
Wonderful. It's so amazing. I want to share with our viewers. I give a presentation each month on emergency readiness. And I was so in awe of Mr. Gardner when he shared with me his information concerning being ready for an emergency. I just had to have him on the show. He's so prepared. He thought of everything that things that people might need or persons might need if there was a true emergency. Let's talk about general supplies everyone should have, Mr. Gardner.
Okay, the most important supply is water. I hear there was a water break and that affected most of western Berks County a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Water is the key. As long as we have water, we can flush toilets, wash hands, and we need it to drink. So we have about 200 gallons in the basement in containers
Mm-hmm.
for the hygiene. We also have water bottles that we can go to a stream and fill them up, and it filters them.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a case or two of bottled water.
Okay. You talked a little bit about some of the technology that you have. If the power goes out, you can't use that technology. So how would you run it?
We have backup batteries that are fully charged that we
Okay.
charge on a regular basis. We also have solar cells,
Mm-hmm.
so we use them too. When the power went out recently, we had the technology to keep our devices running.
As those seasons change, so do the needs that if there would be an emergency, like we know in the winter you would probably need chains and different things to get your cars. But based on the weather we have now, what other emergency supplies would be good for a person to have at this time
A
and in
storm.
this season?
This season, I'd have a really heavy duty raincoat,
Oh, okay.
and Crocs or some other um, foot protection that can get wet.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, just the normal dried foods like dried beans, a way of cooking foods, and just the normal supplies. In the winter, we have chains for our shoes and spikes for our shoes to walk in the snow and ice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've got three
Did you
different
ever have
types.
to use them for a situation in the winter?
Our driveway, shoveling it.
Uh-huh. Oh, really?
Yeah, and to walk in when it's freezing rain or something, we have shoe devices that give us traction because I need to walk. So does
Mm-hmm.
Heather.
Okay, okay. You've talked a little bit about food supply. Let's talk a little bit about your pandemic pantry. What kind of things are in your pantry?
A year's supply of cooking oil,
Oh,
about
wow.
3 years supply of beans, dried
Mm-hmm.
beans, dried eggs, powdered eggs, tuna fish.
Mm-hmm.
Downstairs we have canned meats.
Okay.
So all the normal foods you would need for at least 3 months. We have peanut butter. We have
Mm-hmm.
lots of dog food and dog treats.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I dried about 20 bushels of apples last year.
Okay.
And lots of coffee and lots of tea.
Now, one of the things that I thought about was that if there would be a disaster, you have those things, but I'm thinking to myself, my stove would be out, my microwave would be out. So, are you able to cook anything when we have these disasters?
We have 3 different methods. The
Okay.
barbecue grill, we have charcoal, and part of our yard is wood lot. I have a chainsaw that I'm comfortable
Okay.
with.
Uh-huh.
We also have sterno, so we can heat it up that way.
Okay.
And then we also have a gas, the Coleman stoves.
Okay.
And we have 2 versions of those. One's a gas bottle and one's the tank where you pump it up.
When you talk about things like that, it reminds me of my camping days. When I was going camping, I remember one time we made breakfast outside and we didn't have a fire or anything. We had these big cans and we cut little holes in the cans and then we put a little candle under that and we actually made eggs and bacon on this can. It was amazing.
Yeah, we can do that. With only 5 minutes left, there's one other emergency supply that we have or effort. Somehow I became an artist. I'm a mad scientist, but I'm also a mad artist.
Uh-huh.
I like working with glow-in-the-dark paint.
Oh.
We can navigate the house with the glow-in-the-dark objects I've created.
Wow.
So if it's dark, I can find the bathroom, I can find the kitchen, or any other place in the house pretty much, because we have glow-in-the-dark artwork scattered throughout.
Wonderful. I know I would like to see that. If it would be totally dark and you had this glow in the dark, I bet that would be exciting.
It really helps us.
Uh-huh.
Especially me because diabetic, I have to get up at least once or twice at night.
Uh-huh. I understand. Well, you know what, Richard, you have certainly whet our appetites concerning emergency readiness, and we want to thank you for that. I know that a half-hour show is a little bit of time to give out a lot of information, but I'd like to let our viewers know that if you're interested in beginning or starting an emergency readiness plan, please join me each month. We do it on Zoom, it's virtual. Please join me. Just give me a call, 610-376-0010, and my direct extension is 108. we'd be more than happy to share that information with you and let you begin to start to plan for emergency readiness. Richard, I want to thank you for all your wisdom. You showed me one other thing that you had on your arm. Can you show that to our audience?
Okay, I'm bipolar.
Mhm.
I consider it a tremendous asset, but has a tremendous price.
Okay.
Suicide's a price. The semicolon reminds me that I can face it down. It's something
Right.
I've learned to walk with, but I'm always learning to walk with.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being our guest. We do lastly want to let our viewers know Abilities in Motion is active, but we are not yet open to the public. So if you have anything that you need assistance with or help with, please give us a call. We are available to help you. To Pam, to Richard, to our viewers, be safe, and we look forward to next time. Remember, emergency readiness is really important. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Disabilities Issues and Updates on BCTV is supported by the Berks County Center for Independent Living, Abilities in Motion.